The sand in the hourglass had nearly run out, and the midnight wind slipped through the cracks of the window, carrying the chill of the pine forest beyond the camp. It made the candle flame flicker wildly. When they shoved me into this storage room, my back slammed against a stack of dry hay, the brittle straws slipping into my collar, mingling with the lingering scent of rust in the air, stinging my nose. The door slammed shut behind me, the iron lock clicking into place with a sound that echoed in my bones. Only then did I dare to curl my knees up, tucking my hands into my sleeves. My fingertips still sticky with the residue of herb juice, traces of the runes I'd drawn in the ancient forest earlier that night. Moonlight sliced through the window's lattice, casting fragmented squares onto the hay-strewn floor. I stared at those patches of light, my ears still ringing with the memory of the dagger pressed against my nape in the forest. The cold bite of steel in Kaylan's breath, sharp as frost as he whispered, "From this day forward, you pray only to me." I thought I was done for. The church's purge of heretics decree plastered every town in the Verona kingdom. My mother had been dragged to the stake for drawing runes, betrayed by a neighbor who saw her. Yet Kaylan didn't kill me. Instead, he wrapped me in his cloak and hauled me onto his horse, bringing me to this guarded camp. The door creaked open, and candlelight flooded the room, blinding me. I shrank back instinctively, but it was Kaylan at the threshold, his black uniform glistening with night dew. The scar on his left cheek caught the light. A jagged line, pink and fresh, as if carved by something sharp. I'd glimpsed it earlier when he dragged me onto his horse, but now, up close, it stood out starkly. He didn't speak, just stepped inside, his boots crunching the hay with each deliberate step, each sound matching the thud of my heart. The storage room was tiny, and his presence filled it, leaving little space for air. The candlelight danced on his shoulders, stretching his shadow until it nearly swallowed me whole. "Where did you learn the runes?" His voice was cold, sharp as the sword at his hip, devoid of warmth. I clutched my sleeves, my fingertips burning with the dried herb juice. I just learned a bit from my mother. They heal small wounds, keep wild beasts at bay in the forest. I didn't dare mention legacy, or that the runes could commune with nature, only the safest truths. He stared into my eyes, his gaze piercing, as if he could unravel my lies. "Keep beasts at bay," he scoffed, tapping the hilt of his sword, his knuckles whitening. "The church says heretical runes summon monsters, control minds. You expect me to believe beasts?" My head snapped up, my heart gripped by an icy fist. "No," my voice trembled, but I forced the words out. "Runes are different," my mother said. "Ours were for protection, never to harm." She was denounced as a heretic for saving a villager mauled by a beast. My voice broke at the mention of her, tears threatening to spill. Just then, the door was kicked open with a bang, and Leon stormed in. I'd seen him earlier, his eyes always brimming with hostility. Now, his hand gripped his sword, the scabbard clattering against the doorframe, his face twisted with fury. "Captain, have you forgotten the church's orders? Heretics are to be handed to the inquisitors. Why is she hidden here? If Father Falk finds out, our entire camp will pay." Kaylan didn't turn, his hand resting on his sword hilt, his voice colder than before. "Leon, get out, Captain." Leon stepped closer, his voice rising. "You can't go soft just because she's a woman. She's a heretic, a danger. Her fate is mine to decide," Kaylan said, finally turning. The candlelight caught his eyes, glinting with icy resolve. "Get out." His voice was low but sharp, slicing through Leon's protests. Leon glared at him, then at me, before storming out, slamming the door behind him. The room fell silent again, save for the soft crackle of the candle. Kaylan's gaze fell to my clenched sleeves. I flinched, but he stepped forward, bending to pick up a piece of black bread he'd left by the door. As he handed it to me, his elbow brushed my hand, his calloused fingers grazing my skin. The touch was like ice meeting warm stone. His fingers, rough from years of wielding a sword, carried the chill of the night, yet where they brushed my herb-stained skin, a sudden heat bloomed. I pulled back, but he caught my hand briefly, his grip firm yet fleeting. He paused, glancing at where our skin met, then up at me, his eyes holding something new. Not the coldness from before, Not hostility, but a flicker of curiosity, layered with something I couldn't name. "Your fingers carry the warmth of runes," he said, his voice softer but still commanding. "Next time you draw them, I'll be watching." I took the bread, my fingers still tingling. It was cold, yet it felt oddly warm in my hands. I won't draw them again," I whispered. "I just want to live. Not end up like my mother. Do as I say if you want to live." He cut me off, turning toward the door. "Don't try to escape. The church's eyes are everywhere outside this camp. If they catch you, I won't save you again." At the threshold, he glanced back, the candlelight softening the scar on his face. "Eat. I'll have more questions tomorrow." He closed the door gently, the lock clicking shut, its sound sharp in the quiet. I sat on the hay, clutching the bread, his touch lingering on my skin. The wind howled outside, the candle flickered. But the fear that had gripped me earlier had eased, just a little. I looked at my hand. No mark remained. Yet something felt different. Kaylan, a captain of the King's Guard, should have turned me over to the church. Instead, he hid me here, promised to save me. What did he want my runes? Or something else? I bit into the bread, its dry crust scraping my tongue. Moonlight fell across it, and my mother's words echoed in my mind. The power of runes lies in the kindness of hearts. Sometimes, the one who saves you is the last person you'd expect. I hadn't understood her then. But now, watching the candle's shadow dance on the door, I thought I might. Then, a faint sound, footsteps outside. Not Kaylan's heavy boots, but lighter, tiptoeing. My heart leapt. Leon, or the church. I clutched my sleeve where the rune's warmth lingered and held my breath. What do you think Kaylan's insistence on watching Ella draw runes means? Is he trying to control their power? Or is he, perhaps unconsciously, protecting her from the church's discovery? The midnight wind, laced with the chill of the pine forest, slipped through the storage room's window cracks, making the candle flame sputter. I huddled in the corner of the haystack, my back pressed against a cold iron rack stacked with rusted armor. The dry straws caught in the metal, scratching my neck. The iron lock on the door gleamed coldly, its click still echoing in the cramped space, tightening my nerves like a drawn bowstring. I looked down at my hands, my fingertips stained with the faint green of herb juice, remnants of the runes I'd drawn in the ancient forest. Moonlight, sliced into diamond shapes by the window's lattice, spilled across my hands, making the stains stand out. Kaylan's voice echoed in my mind, his dagger pressed to my nape, his breath cold as frost. "From this day forward, you pray only to me." I'd thought death was certain. The Verona Kingdom's towns were plastered with the church's purge of heretics' decree, red painted crosses declaring, "Those who practice heretical runes shall face the stake." My mother had been betrayed for drawing runes, dragged to the pyre. I'd hidden in a barn's shadows, watching flames consume her skirt as she cried, "Runes are for protection, not evil," until smoke stole her voice. Yet Kaylan spared me. He wrapped me in his black cloak, damp with night dew, and smelling of leather and steel, and pulled me onto his horse, his grip bruising my wrist. In that moment, I caught sight of the scar on his left cheek. A jagged slash from brow to jaw, faintly pink in the moonlight, newly healed. The door creaked open, candlelight flooding in, blinding me. I shrank into the hay, clutching the small pouch of herbs in my sleeve. My mother's last gift, my only link to the runes. Kaylan stood in the doorway, his black uniform dripping with dew, his gaze sharp as a hawk's. The candlelight cast his shadow long, nearly engulfing me. The room felt suffocatingly small with him there. "Where did you learn the runes?" His voice was cold, unyielding as the sword at his side. My lips were dry, my voice shaky. "My mother taught me just simple ones. For colds, or to ward off small forest creatures. I didn't dare speak of legacy, or how the runes could make injured rabbits run again, or coax withered wheat to sprout. Those were heretical proofs, a one-way ticket to the pyre." He scoffed, stepping inside, his boots crunching the hay with each step, matching my racing pulse. He bent to pick up a piece of black bread from the floor, left there when he entered. Ward off creatures. He tossed the bread to me. It landed in my lap, faintly warm. The church's inquisitors say heretical runes summon monsters, bend minds. You think I'd buy creatures? My head snapped up. My heart caught in an icy grip. No, I cried, tears threatening to spill. Runes aren't all the same. My mother said ours were the tongue of nature. For protection, she was betrayed for saving a hunter mauled by a beast. His eyes bored into mine, sharp enough to cut through lies. He tapped his sword hilt, knuckles whitening protection. That rune you drew last night lit up half the forest. If the church had seen it, you'd be on the pyre by now. I froze last night under the full moon. The forest's beasts were restless, and I feared they'd raid the village below. I'd snuck to the ancient forest to draw a calming rune, its pale green glow fueled by moonlight. I thought the night would hide me, but Kaylan, patrolling, had found me. The door was suddenly kicked open with a bang, and Leon burst in. His hostility had been clear earlier, his eyes venomous. Now his hand gripped his sword, the scabbard clattering against the doorframe, his face ablaze with anger. "Captain, are you mad? The church orders heretics to be executed or handed to inquisitors. Why is she here? If Father Falk finds out, our camp is done for." Kaylan didn't turn, his hand on his sword, his voice colder than ever. "Leon, get out, Captain." Leon stepped forward, voice rising. "Don't let her face fool you. Heretics are cunning. She could summon a monster with those runes." Kaylan turned, the candlelight glinting in his eyes. "Her fate is mine to decide. Not the church's." His voice was low, authoritative, cutting Leon's protests short. "Out. Now." Leon stared, stunned, then glared at me with raw fury before storming out, slamming the door. Dust fell from the ceiling, settling in my hair. Silence returned, broken only by the candle's crackle. Kaylan's gaze landed on my clenched sleeve. I flinched, but he stepped closer, reaching for a nearly spent candle on the iron rack beside me. His movement was swift, his fingers brushing my hand. The touch was like ice on warm stone. His calloused fingers, chilled by the night, grazed my herb-stained skin, sending a jolt of heat through me. I jerked back, but he caught my wrist lightly, his grip brief but firm. I looked up, and his eyes held a complexity, less cold, more searching. With a softness I couldn't place, the candlelight softened the scar on his cheek. "Your fingers." He paused, his voice gentler. "They hold the warmth of runes." My heart raced, my cheeks burning. I washed them." I stammered, unsure what I was hiding. He released my wrist, his fingers still carrying my warmth. "Next time you draw, I'll be watching," he said, his tone commanding yet softer. "Don't let anyone else see, especially the church." I clutched the bread, my fingers tingling. Why not turn me over to the inquisitors?" I dared to ask. As a captain of the king's guard, his duty was to deliver me to the church. He didn't answer, turning to the door. At the threshold, he paused, glancing back, the candlelight tracing his jaw. "If you want to live, don't ask questions." His voice was firm. "I'll return at dawn to question you about the runes. Don't try to escape, the church's spies are everywhere." He closed the door softly, the lock clicking shut. I sat in the hay, clutching the cold bread, his touch lingering on my skin. The wind howled, the candle flickered, casting my shadow on the wall. I bit into the bread, its crust cutting my lip, a faint taste of blood mixing with its dryness. Yet it felt warm, like Kaylan's fleeting touch, thawing the chill of this cage. Then, footsteps, light, tiptoeing outside. Not Kaylan's heavy boots. A clatter followed. Rosary beads. My heart leapt. Father Falk here. I blew out the candle, plunging the room into darkness, save for the moonlight. I crept to the door, pressing my ear against it. The footsteps lingered, the beads clinking closer, as if the door might swing open any second. What do you think Kaylan's insistence on watching Ella draw runes means? Is he seeking to harness their power to counter the church? Or is he, perhaps unconsciously, shielding her from the Inquisitor's grasp. Morning light slipped through the cracks of the storage room's window as I dozed fitfully in the haystack. The night's chill lingered, and the straw clinging to my dampened neck itched terribly. It wasn't the light that jolted me awake, but a clattering sound, crisp yet heavy, like the rosary beads my mother used to clutch in her wooden box, her knuckles whitening whenever an Inquisitor passed our door. My eyes snapped open, my heart pounding. The sound grew closer, mingled with the tread of soldiers' boots, pausing in the direction of the front hall. I crept silently to the cold wooden door, pressing my ear against the seam. The rough grain scratched my cheek, damp with night dew, and through the narrow gap, I glimpsed a flash of dark red Father Falk's robes. He stood in the hall, bathed in candlelight, the gold, threaded cross on his crimson robes glinting sharply in the dawn. His fingers toyed with a string of ebony rosary beads, each movement producing a soft click that seemed to keep time with my racing heart. Kaylan faced him, his black uniform still creased, the scar on his left cheek softened by the morning light, but no less stern. His helmet was off, golden hair falling over his brow, veiling his eyes, but his hand rested on his sword hilt, knuckles pale with tension. "Captain Kaylan," Falk began, his voice smooth as a spring breeze, but laced with frost. "Last night, there was a rune disturbance in the ancient forest. The church's spies sensed the aura of nature heresy. Your camp borders the forest. Surely you noticed something suspicious." His beads kept turning, but his gaze swept the hall, lingering on the door of my hiding place. My breath caught, and I shrank back, my fingers tightening around the herb pouch in my sleeve, a pinch of dried chamomile, enough for a protective rune, now burning like a hot coal in my sweaty palm. Kaylan's voice was icy. "Last night's patrol found only a few fleeing rabbits. Nothing suspicious. If you're concerned, Father, have the church search the forest. The guard's duty is to protect the capital, not chase heretics." "Oh." Falk's chuckle was soft, but he stepped closer, his eyes fathomless in the candlelight. "I heard a soldier saw you bring someone back last night. A young woman, perhaps." He raised his rosary, pointing its tip toward my door. "In there, isn't she?" My heart nearly shattered my ribs. Who had spoken, Leon? Or had someone seen me when Kaylan dragged me onto his horse? I remembered the day my mother was betrayed, a neighbor pointing at our window, whispering, "I saw her daughter drawing devil's marks." That same terror surged now, choking me. Kaylan shifted, his broad shoulders blocking Falk's line of sight, a wall between me and that malicious gaze. A farmer's daughter from the valley, bringing medicine for her injured brother. It was too late to send her back, so I let her stay the night. She left at dawn. His tone was steady, unyielding. "Just an ordinary girl. No need for you to trouble yourself, Father." Falk held Kaylan's gaze for 3 long seconds, his beads still. Then he smiled, pulling a small Bible from his robes and tapping a passage. "The doctrine says heretics hide behind ordinary faces, like snakes in the grass. You're the king's confidant, Captain. Surely you haven't forgotten the church's purge of heretics." "I haven't." Kaylan's hand tightened on his sword hilt. "Nor have I forgotten the guard's duty to protect civilians, not slaughter the innocent." "Innocent." Falk's voice turned cold, his rosary clattering to the floor, rolling to Kaylan's feet. He bent to retrieve it, his slow movements heavy with menace. "No one touched by heretical runes is innocent. The rune saint burned years ago claimed she was healing too. Yet she used runes to control beasts, injuring 3 inquisitors." "That's a lie," I whispered behind the door, instantly regretting it. "My mother never controlled beasts. She'd used runes to shield villagers from their attacks, only to be slandered by the inquisitors." The hall went silent. I could feel Falk and Kaylan's eyes on the door. My palms sweated, my fingers tracing a simple protective rune on the wood, taught by my mother, meant to summon safety. I was too nervous to realize what I was doing until a faint green glow bloomed from my fingertips, like a tiny leaf, flickering briefly before fading. "What was that?" Leon's voice cut through, sharp with alarm. Through the crack, I saw him in the hall's corner, gripping a spear, his eyes locked on my door. He'd seen the glow. Falk's eyes gleamed, and he pushed past Kaylan toward the storage room. "It seems, Captain, you're hiding more than an ordinary girl." "Father," Kaylan stepped in front, his voice edged with anger. "It was just a reflection on the wood. Leon's mistaken." Leon frowned, about to speak, but Kaylan's glare silenced him. Falk studied the door, then pulled a paper from his robes and handed it to Kaylan. "The Church's new order. Any heretic, no matter who shelters them, must be delivered to us immediately." He paused, his tone heavy. "That includes your camp, Captain." Kaylan took the paper without looking at it, crumpling it in his fist. "Understood." Falk resumed turning his beads and walked away, pausing by Leon to murmur something I couldn't hear. Leon's face shifted, surprise, hesitation, then a conflicted expression. The hall's footsteps faded. I slid down the door, my back soaked with sweat. That glow. If Falk had seen it, I'd be dragged out by now. The door creaked open and Kaylan entered. The morning light fell on him, but it brought no warmth. He went straight to the door, crouching to touch where I'd drawn the rune. A faint green trace lingered, like a small scar. "You couldn't help yourself, could you?" His voice was soft, tinged with disappointment and resignation. "What did I tell you last night? Don't let anyone else see your runes." I looked down, ashamed. I was scared. It wasn't on purpose." He stood, bending to meet my eyes. In the light, I saw his pupils, deep brown, like the forest's lakes, holding emotions I couldn't decipher. "Why do you think Falk came?" he said. "He'd heard about rune activity in the forest and came for you. If Leon tells him about that glow, do you think you'd still be here?" Tears fell, soaking the hay. "I don't want to die," I choked out. "My mother's gone. I just want to live, to use runes to help people. I haven't done anything wrong." He was silent for a moment, then reached out, wiping my tears with his thumb. His touch was cool but carried a faint gentleness. "I know," he said, softer now. "But the Church doesn't want heretics. They want controllable heretics. They'd use your runes or destroy you if you refuse." He paused, his gaze on my clenched sleeve. "So, next time you draw a rune, either I'm watching or you don't draw at all." His tone was commanding, yet it steadied me. He was protecting me. For now, Leon's voice broke in from the hall. "Captain, the king's messenger is here. You're needed in the capital." Kaylan stood, heading for the door. He glanced back. "Stay inside while I'm gone. No runes, and stay away from Leon." He left, the lock clicking shut. I sat in the hay, watching the light shift. What had Falk whispered to Leon? Would Leon report the glow? With Kaylan gone, who would protect me if Falk returned? I touched the rune's trace on the door, its faint warmth lingering. My mother said runes were the tongue of nature, meant for protection, but now, the one protecting me was leaving. "Do you think Leon will tell Falk about the door's glow? Is his hesitation due to loyalty to Kaylan, or fear of the Church?" The noon wind, heavy with the forest's dampness, slipped through the infirmary's window cracks, making the oil lamp's flame flicker. I crouched by the wounded soldier's cot, my fingers dipped in pale green herb juice, my sweaty palm threatening to blur it. This was my first time drawing a rune outside the ancient forest. And worse, Kaylan stood 3 steps behind me. His black uniform's hem grazed the floor, a silent boundary, yet his presence filled the air, every breath carrying his scent, leather and steel, sharp and grounding. The soldier's groans weakened, the stench of his rotting wound stinging my nose. I took a deep breath, my fingers tracing the healing rune on his swollen leg. My mother taught me to draw it with a clear mind, but Kaylan's gaze weighed on me, not cold but heavy, like a dagger under moonlight, sharp yet hiding a softness that made my fingers tremble. "Don't rush," Kaylan said above me, his voice lower, rougher than usual. I looked up, my nose nearly brushing his golden hair. He'd moved closer, his breath grazing my forehead, warm with the scent of leather and sunlight. My cheeks burned, his deep brown eyes locked on my herb-stained fingers, reflecting the green glow and my small, trapped silhouette, like prey caught in his gaze. I ducked my head, resuming the rune, my fingers shakier. I'm not rushing, I mumbled, my voice weak. Who could stay calm drawing heretical runes under the Kingsguard captain's watch? Who could trust his protection when he should turn me over to the church? This connection was wrong, a violation of the purge of heretics, a forbidden thought I shouldn't entertain. The herb juice dripped along the soldier's skin, glinting under the lamp. I felt the rune take effect, a warm current flowing from my fingers to my heart. Life stirring, danger closing in. As I finished the final stroke, the soldier stirred, color returning to his pale face. The wound's blackened edges softening to pink. I exhaled, starting to rise. But my vision darkened, the cold floor never came. Instead, strong arms caught me. Kaylan's hands gripped my waist, his warmth seeping through my rough clothes, a fire that froze me in place. His grip was firm but careful, steadying me without pain. I felt the strength in his arms, hard as his sword, yet humanly warm, the contrast making my heart race, my breath forgotten. "Steady," he said, his voice close, his breath brushing my earlobe, sending a shiver through me. I tried to push away, but my hand landed on his chest, feeling his heartbeat, strong, erratic, crashing against mine like wild horses on a forbidden edge. I yanked my hand back, as if burned, but saw his throat bob, his gaze on my stained fingers, his eyes holding a depth I dared not explore. I'm fine," I stammered, stepping back, only to bump into the medicine rack. A clay jar clattered, the sound sharp in the quiet infirmary. The lamp's light swayed, casting our shadows on the wall, mine nestled in his inescapable. I couldn't meet his eyes, afraid to see my own panic mirrored, afraid to admit the forbidden spark between us. He was the Kingsguard captain. I was a branded heretic. Even sharing this air was taboo. The door curtain whipped open, cold air carrying Leon's roar. "What are you doing?" I flinched, springing away from Kaylan to the rack, clutching my hem. Leon's glare cut through me, then Kaylan, landing on the soldier's improved wound. His eyes widened. "How's his wound better? What sorcery did you use? I saw green light at the door, heretical runes. Captain, are you mad? You're defying the church." His words struck like a hammer. The fragile, unspoken thing between Kaylan and me shattered under his accusations, laid bare in the cold reality. Kaylan stepped forward, shielding me in his shadow, his hand on his sword, knuckles white. "Leon, she used herbs, not runes. Keep talking, and you'll face military law." "Herbs?" Leon sneered, stepping closer. "Herbs heal a bone. Deep rot in half an hour, emit green light, Captain. Has she bewitched you? She's a heretic, wanted by the church. Protecting her is treason." Bewitched pierced like a needle. I stared at Kaylan's back, his shoulders tense, his muscles taut under his uniform. He was angry, struggling. Leon spoke the truth. This spark was bewitchment, a betrayal of duty, a forbidden line. I shouldn't rely on his protection, shouldn't have faltered in his arms, shouldn't have let his gaze unsettle me while drawing runes. Kaylan turned, his eyes meeting mine, a rare panic flickering. "Go out the back, return to the storage room, and stay there." His voice was urgent, his hand reaching for my arm but stopping short, pulling back. He was restraining himself, fighting the forbidden care, the urge to cross that line. "What about you?" I asked, trembling. I knew Falk come any moment, that Leon wouldn't relent, but I feared more for Kaylan, risking a treason charge for me. He didn't answer, stepping toward the curtain, blocking Leon's view, and giving me a look. "Go," his tone was commanding again. But I saw his fingers tremble, fear for me, a tenderness hidden beneath his authority, the most forbidden thing between us. I bit my lip, slipped through the back curtain into the alley. The wind was cold, stinging my eyes with unshed tears. I glanced back at the infirmary's curtain, hearing Leon's shouts and Kaylan's sharp retorts, picturing Kaylan shielding me. From the moment he caught my waist, from the moment our shadows tangled on the wall, we'd stepped onto a forbidden line. Forward lay the pyre, backward an irretrievable distance. Then, from afar, came the clatter of rosary beads, crisp and laced with death. Falk was coming. Do you think Kaylan's catching Ella by the waist was an instinctive act of protection, or an undeniable spark of attraction? When Leon accuses her of bewitching Kaylan, is Ella's panic more about her heretical identity being exposed or admitting the forbidden feelings between them? The evening wind, laced with the chill of the ancient forest, swirled through the guard camp's edges, its icy fingers clawing at my skin. Yet the bonfire's golden glow held it at bay, casting a warm halo that danced across the hay bale where I sat. My back pressed against a rough wooden post, my fingers trembled, heavy with the exhaustion of banishing rot from the wounded soldier's leg. Drawing runes drained my spirit, leaving my hands too weak to lift. Across from me, Kaylan lounged, legs stretched toward the flames, the hem of his black uniform kissed by their heat. He poured steaming meat broth into a clay bowl, the rising vapor softening the jagged scar on his left cheek, making it less a mark of menace and more a whisper of vulnerability. "Drink," he said, handing me the bowl. His calloused fingers brushed my palm, a fleeting touch that sparked like embers on dry tinder, sending a shiver through my fingertips. His hands, hardened by years of wielding a sword, grazed my soft skin, leaving a trail of warmth that burned with forbidden promise, a memory of the infirmary, when his grip on my waist had steadied me, restrained yet pulsing with unspoken care. I clutched the bowl, the broth's warmth kissing my face, coaxing unshed tears to sting my eyes. This was the first hot thing I'd tasted since arriving at the camp. The black bread before had been cold, hard as stone. The carrots and potatoes floating in the broth felt like a tender luxury, a kindness I didn't deserve. "Thank you," I whispered, sipping the broth. Its warmth slid down my throat, spreading through my chest, but it couldn't thaw the ice in my heart. Father Falk's rosary beads clattered in my memory. Leon's venomous glares pricked like thorns, and the church's iron grip loomed, ready to crush this fragile safety. He shouldn't be here, offering me warmth, I thought. My fingers tightening around the bowl. Fahey's the Kingsguard captain, bound to turn me over to the church. Yet his touch lingers, and I'm too weak to push it away. Fear coiled in my chest, warring with a dangerous trust. A forbidden spark I dared not name. How could I trust him, when one word to Falk could send me to the pyre? And yet, his eyes held no betrayal, only a depth that pulled at my soul. "Your mother, was she the rune saint?" Kaylan's voice sliced through the fire's crackle, low and piercing, striking the raw wound I kept buried. My grip on the bowl faltered, broth splashing onto my hand, unnoticed in the shock. I met his gaze. No mockery, no accusation, just a deep, searching intensity, like a forest lake at midnight, drawing my secrets to the surface. I bit my lip, tears spilling, rippling the broth's surface. "Yes," I choked out, each word a shard torn from my throat. They claimed she controlled beasts with runes, but she was protecting villagers, shielding them from an attack. The inquisitors called her a liar, dragged her to the stake. I hid in a barn, watching flames devour her robes, hearing her cry. "Runes are for protection, not evil," until the smoke stole her voice. My sobs broke free, my shoulders shaking as the memories flooded back. Her gentle hands teaching me runes, her smile promising safety, gone in a blaze of lies. Kaylan said nothing, but his hand reached out, his thumb brushing a tear from my cheek. His touch was cool, damp with night dew, yet it burned with a gentleness that outshone the fire. I froze, my heart racing, caught between fear and longing. "Faith, this is wrong," my mind screamed. "Fate a captain and a heretic, our closeness is a sin, a step toward the pyre." Yet I couldn't pull away, clinging to this fleeting warmth, this forbidden anchor in my storm. Fahey could betray me tomorrow. I thought, my breath hitching as his thumb lingered. But tonight, his touch feels like salvation, and I'm too broken to resist. The firelight caught his eyes, reflecting my trembling silhouette, small, fragile, yet held in a gaze that didn't judge. I wanted to trust him, to believe in this warmth, but the church's shadow loomed, whispering that trust was a trap, that his kindness could be my undoing. "This scar," Kaylan said, pulling back to touch his cheek, his voice tinged with a rare self-mockery. The fire illuminated the pink gash from brow to jaw, raw and stark. 3 years ago, a village outside the capital was ravaged by beasts. The church forced civilians to stand as shields, claiming faith would repel evil. I challenged them, and an inquisitor slashed me with a dagger. I froze, staring at the scar, not menacing now, but a mark of shared defiance, a wound from questioning the church's cruelty. "How could they?" I murmured, my voice thick with an ache I shouldn't feel, a tenderness that crossed every forbidden line. Fahey's suffered for standing against them, just as I have. Can I trust this pain we share, or is it another lie, like the church's promises? Kaylan scoffed, tossing a stick into the fire. Sparks erupted, tiny flames dancing, mirroring the complexity in his eyes. Why wouldn't they? The church claims divine authority, and even the king bows to it. He paused, his gaze dropping to my hands clutching the bowl. I thought runes were evil, as they said. Then I saw you heal that soldier. They don't fear evil. They fear power they can't control. A gust of wind stirred pine needles near the fire, the flames flickering, stretching our shadows until they entwined on the ground. Kaylan shifted closer, shielding me from the breeze. The space between us shrank, close enough to see dust in his golden hair, to smell leather and sunlight on him, to feel his breath's warmth. Human, alive, far from the cold clatter of rosary beads, or the pyre's searing flames. My heart pounded, a fire igniting within, burning my skin. I wanted to flee, to escape this dangerous pull, but the hay bale trapped me. Kaylan didn't move, his brown eyes locked on mine, reflecting the fire in my silhouette, a prey that didn't want to run. The air grew heavy, thick with a sweet forbidden tension, a scent that wasn't smoke or broth, but the ache of something unspoken. Fahey's too close, I thought. My breath shallow. Fahey should push him away. But I don't want to. His warmth feels like home. And I'm terrified it's a lie. Every instinct screamed to guard my heart. Trust could mean death. Yet his gaze held a promise that made me want to believe, to let this spark burn. "The fire will fade, the moonlight will hide," he whispered, his breath grazing my forehead, scalding my scalp. "But if you need it, I can be your light. For now." His words struck like lightning, shattering my defenses. "Fahey's offering me hope, but it's a flame that could burn us both." I knew it was wrong, a betrayal of his duty, a path to ruin. Yet I nodded, tears falling, not from fear, but because someone dared to be my light, even if only for a moment. Faye want to trust him, to hold on to this warmth. But what if it's a trap? What if he's my light today and my executioner tomorrow? A sharp cough broke the spell. Leon stood by a tent, gripping a spear, his eyes venomous, piercing the fragile moment. Kaylan's hand on my cheek, our shadows tangled. That closeness was evidence he could carry to Falk. Kaylan pulled back swiftly, the distance making our warmth feel like a fading dream. He stirred the fire, coughing to mask the moment, his voice cold again. "It's late, back to the storage room." I clutched the bowl, my fingers still tingling from his touch, my heart chilled by the wind. That spark flickered like the fire's embers, too fragile to burn brightly. Exposed to the church, it would be snuffed out, leaving us as ash. Kaylan walked ahead, his black uniform a shadow in the night. I followed, watching his broad back, a pang of unfairness rising. Faye, why must we hide this feeling? Why does the church taint every kindness? Why is he a captain, and I a heretic? My heart ached with the weight of it, torn between fear of betrayal and a desperate wish to trust the man who'd offered me light. At the storage room door, he paused, turning to me. His eyes conflicted. "Don't cry in front of others," he said, his voice softening. "Especially Leon and Falk." I nodded, avoiding his gaze, afraid he'd see the storm in my heart, fear, trust, and a forbidden longing I couldn't name. He unlocked the door, its creak piercing the silence. "Go in," he said. I stepped inside, turning to whisper, "Thank you." But he stood in the doorway, the firelight softening his scar. His gaze lingered, deep and unreadable. Then he closed the door, the lock clicking, sealing our spark in the night outside. I leaned against the door, his footsteps fading, the bowl warm in my hands, my heart hollow. Fahey's crossed a line for me, but it's a line that leads to the pyre, asterisk from the moment he offered to be my light. We'd stepped into forbidden territory. Forward lay flames, backward an unreachable distance. Leon's gaze was a fuse, ready to ignite our ruin. The dawn fog, cold as drenched silk, enveloped the ancient forest, cloaking the trees in ghostly shapes. I stood at the camp's gate, clutching the rough cloth gloves Kaylan gave me last night, my knuckles white with tension. Falk faced me, his crimson robes damp with dew, looking like pooled blood in the mist. His ebony rosary beads clattered, startling sparrows and sending a chill down my spine. "Miss Ella," he said, his smile warm but his eyes cold. "Beasts have been troubling the forest lately. The church needs to investigate their lairs. And as a local, you know the paths, don't you? We'd appreciate you as a guide." His tone was polite but left no room for refusal. Leon stood beside him, gripping a spear, his stare daring me to say no. I glanced at Kaylan, to my left, his black uniform buttoned tightly, his scar a faint line in the fog. He didn't look at me, his eyes on Falk, hand on his sword hilt. "If you're checking lairs, Father, the guard can send soldiers familiar with the terrain. No need to trouble a civilian girl." "Soldiers can't match a local's knowledge," Falk countered, stepping closer. His sandalwood scent sharpened the fog, choking me. "Besides, Miss Ella can heal beast wounds. She must know the forest dangers better than soldiers." He emphasized dangers, his gaze flicking to my fingers, where faint green herb stains lingered, barely visible in the mist. Me heart tightened, and I hid my hands in my sleeves. "I just got lucky with herbs," I said, my voice shaky. "I've only been to the forest's edge, never deeper." "With Captain Kaylan here." "What's to fear?" Falk patted Kaylan's shoulder, his beads spinning fast. "He's the king's chosen captain, slayer of beasts. Can't he protect a guide?" Kaylan's glance at me was layered, worry, warning, and a helpless resignation. He knew Falk's request was deliberate, but refusing under church business would brand him a rebel against divine authority. The four of us entered the forest, the fog thickening, blurring the trees. Dew dripped from pine needles onto my hands, cold enough to make me flinch. Falk led, humming church hymns, his beads clicking like a metronome to my heart. Leon trailed behind, his heavy steps echoing, his gaze pricking my back like needles. "Captain Kaylan." Falk stopped, turning to us. "Why do heretics always hide in the forest?" Before Kaylan could answer, he looked at me. "Miss Ella, didn't your mother frequent this place to draw runes?" "Don't mention my mother," I burst out, tears threatening. "She was my deepest wound, and Falk prodded it like a cat toying with a mouse." Kaylan stepped between us, his voice icy. "Father, focus on the lairs, not irrelevant matters." His hand gripped his sword, the scabbard humming faintly. Falk raised an eyebrow, his smile cryptic, but said no more. We pressed on, a rustling sound breaking the fog, claws scratching the earth. My heart sank, and I instinctively edged closer to Kaylan, my fingers warming, a faint green glow threatening to escape. "Watch out!" Leon shouted. A black shape lunged from the mist, a small beast, larger than a wolf, its claws gleaming, its shadow elongated in the fog. Menacing, Falk stepped back, conveniently closer to me, exclaiming, "Oh, where did that come from?" But his eyes fixed on my hands. He was waiting for me to use a rune to betray myself. My fingers burned, the glow nearly breaking free. Kaylan drew his sword, its silver flashing in the fog. He stepped in front of me, his arm brushing my shoulder. "Stay behind me," he said, low and firm, his breath warming my ear, stirring my heart. The beast growled but hesitated before Kaylan's blade, its killing intent slicing the fog. He advanced, sword aimed. "Get lost." The beast paused, then fled into the mist. Kaylan sheathed his sword, lingering in front of me, a barrier against Falk and Leon's gazes. "You okay?" he whispered, his fingers brushing my wrist, pressing back the glow. The touch, light as it was, surged through me like a current. He was hiding my secret, but the contact was forbidden. A captain and a heretic, standing side by side, was a sin. "Thank you, Captain," Falk said, his smile false. "That was close." He stepped near, eyeing my wrist where Kaylan touched, his lips curling subtly. Miss Ella was so calm, unlike other girls who'd cry. Heretics face beasts differently, don't they? I'm not a heretic. I protested, my words weak. Kaylan turned, shielding me. She was stunned, not calm. "We haven't found the lair. Let's head back." His tone left no room for argument. We walked in silence, the fog lifting, sunlight filtering through leaves, but my heart stayed cold. Falk's gaze lingered, and I sensed Leon's hesitation. He'd seen my glow but hadn't spoken. Near the camp, Falk paused. "Thank you both for today. We'll need to check the beasts again, Miss Ella. Perhaps you'll guide us next time." His glance was calculating, chilling me. Kaylan gripped my wrist. "Firmer now. She's a civilian. Not up for this. Send soldiers next time." Falk smiled, nodding, and left. Leon glanced at us, his hostility softened, replaced by complexity, then followed. Kaylan released me, his warmth lingering. "He's doing this on purpose," he said, worry in his voice. "He wants you to use runes to catch you." "I know," I trembled. "I almost." "If he comes for you again, don't go alone," he cut in, eyeing my fingers. "Your runes, only draw them with me, or better, don't." His voice wavered, fighting something. "I don't want you hurt." His words warmed my chilled heart, but they were forbidden, a light the church could extinguish. His brown eyes held my reflection, small but guarded. Uproar broke out at the camp gate, church soldiers with Falk. My heart leapt, and I instinctively hid behind Kaylan. When will Leon inform Falk? Will he spill everything now, or wait for more pressure? If Kaylan learns Ella's been taken, will he seek the king's counsel or storm the tribunal to save her?